Gordon Birrell, and I'm a business unit leader for BP in the North Sea. Much of my time is spent thinking about how we can perform well as a business, and there is no more important measure of performance than our ability to operate in a safe manner. I am absolutely committed to our target of causing no harm to people who work in our business. However, we are still seeing injuries in our workplace, which leads to days spent away from work. More than 1/3 of these are caused by manual handling, which then leads to musculoskeletal injury. The industry is working closely with North Sea government safety agencies to reduce such injuries. BP in particular has taken a leading role in promoting safe manual handling practices with step change in safety. This programme demonstrates how these injuries can happen and provides some simple actions and solutions to ensure you are safe when involved in manual handling. Although Skeleton Sid is a character with an entertaining approach, the message is a serious one. I would like you to adopt the good practices shown in the programme, whether you work for BP or one of our contracting companies. Over the next few months, BP will be introducing a new manual handling risk assessment tool called Bodyguard. This will further strengthen our manual handling risk assessment and control process. Please take the time to watch this programme, which reinforces our firm belief that no job is so important you cannot take the time to do it safely. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sid, and I'm someone you don't see every day. But I'm with you throughout your life, whether you like it or not. Because if it wasn't for me, you'd fall apart. You see, I'm the one that gives you backbone. Get it? Backbone. Ha ha! Anyway, the only time you realize I'm there is when you injure yourself, or even worse, lose a piece of me. So I need to get through to everyone that I share your day-to-day life, and that you should all behave in a safe and responsible manner towards me, but just as importantly, yourself. So, we're going to show you the injuries you could sustain if you don't perform the correct procedures needed for manual handling, especially to my bone structure, muscle and tissue. Let me introduce you to my soulmate. This is my other half. He's not all there, but I'll fix that in a moment. We've worked in the oil and gas industry together for a number of years now, without any injury, because he listens to what's going on upstairs, and he plans things carefully. So let's see how we can cope with some manual handling tasks. The oil and gas industry is an industry that has become a safe industry to work in, especially when compared to some onshore industries, and that's something we can all be very proud of. That safety record has come about because of the better design of plant and equipment, because of safe systems of work, hazard and risk assessments, incident reporting systems, toolbox talks, and so on. And it comes about because the workforce has accepted and has contributed towards working in a culture where safety is ranked equal to commercial, technical, and other considerations. But a good safety record is no accident. We have to regard all accidents and injuries as being avoidable. Having said all that, safety managers still get reports of accidents and injuries coming in every day. And looking at the statistics, a large proportion of them fall into one category: those associated with manual handling in all its forms. So what do we mean by manual handling? It's not just lifting things. It's defined as any activity that involves the movement or support of a load by hand or by bodily force, or the handling of loads by human effort, as opposed to mechanical handling. It includes pushing, pulling, carrying, putting down, and moving a load, and activities that involve awkward positions and repetitive actions. And you don't have to worry just about heavy loads. Light loads can be awkward if they're bulky. Manual handling is usually covered by regulations and working procedures, but unfortunately that doesn't prevent there being a large number of accidents and injuries, sprains and strains, especially to the back. So, let's start with the backbone of all manual handling tasks. Excuse the pun. Lifting and lowering objects. This is where I come in. The part of me that gets hurt most often is my back, my vertebral column, and the muscles and nerves connected to it. My backbone is made up of 24 individual vertebrae with discs of soft cartilage between them. To some extent, they act as shock absorbers. But they also mean that I can bend and twist, and there are lots of muscles, tendons, and ligaments to help me do that. Problems arise because although I'm very strong when I'm upright and straight, if I bend, then all kinds of things happen. Extra strain is put on the supporting muscles, so they might get injured. And if there's extreme stress, then one of the cartilage discs can be squeezed out and press on a nerve or on the nerve roots, giving rise to severe pain and restricted movement. Anyone hurt like this will want to remain still, and in many cases curl up in a fetal position. In the offshore industry, nearly a quarter of reported injuries result from manual handling. Injuries caused by bad posture in lifting. Bending the back causes thousands of back injuries every year. And there's nothing funny about a bad back. It's almost always painful, often long-lasting, and can be quite disabling. There's also a macho element in all this. I'm strong enough to lift and carry that. I'm not going to be a wimp and take advantage of a mechanical lifting aid. I haven't got time for that, and so on. Well, there's nothing macho about slipping a disc and being medevaced off, and there might not be too much sympathy either. Think and plan in advance before you do any lifting. This means think about the weight of the object you'll be moving and the distance you'll be moving it to. Is it bulky? Do you need help? Remember, preventing manual handling problems is best achieved by good workplace design and the use of mechanical lifting aids. If manual lifting is unavoidable, then follow this principle to avoid back injury. After planning your lift, the next important step is to align yourself correctly in front of the load with your feet straddling it. One foot slightly in front of the other for balance. Slowly squat down, bending your knees, not your back. Use both hands, firmly grip the load and bring it close to your body as you can. This will help distribute the load over your feet and make the move easier. Remember, lift with your legs, not your back. Slowly straighten out your legs until you're upright, and make sure the load isn't blocking your view as you slowly walk to your destination. Now, lowering the load is just as important as lifting. It's basically the same, but in reverse. To lower and set the object down, keep the load close to your body, bend your knees, and let your leg muscles do the work to lower the object. Remember to keep your back straight and don't twist. There's a basic rule in manual handling, and that's to avoid it if you can. And that doesn't mean getting someone else to do it. It means using appropriate mechanical handling equipment if it's available, and if it's not there, then ask why. Pushing and pulling actions are among the most common work activities. They're also the cause of many injuries. The most common being overexertion and overstretching, causing strain or damage to muscles, tendons, ligaments, and joints. The strength of a push or pull depends mainly on foot stability and on body weight. Theoretically, the nearer the body can be to the horizontal without the feet slipping, the stronger the pull. Hence the posture of a tug-of-war team. The strength of the leg and shoulder muscles is a secondary factor because they are of no value without firm footage. Doing a light warm-up before any job will increase the blood flow to the muscles and help you get ready for action. Pushing and pulling also requires the use of your hands, and exerting too much force when pushing or pulling a heavy load could result in a sprained wrist or a fracture to the delicate bones in your wrist. And be prepared for sudden jerks. You can be trying to turn a valve, often in an awkward position, and if it suddenly moves, your back can get a jolt. Office environment. Getting hurt through manual handling work isn't confined to just one kind of workplace or one kind of job. You can hurt yourself in an office environment just as easily as on the drill floor, especially if you lift things awkwardly or even start sitting badly in a chair. The hazards in many offshore jobs are obvious, but if you work largely in an office, you're more likely to know someone off work with a bad back or a twisted knee than someone who's been hurt doing what seems to be a more hazardous job. Carrying objects involves some static muscular work that can be tiring for the back, shoulders, arms and hands depending on how the load is supported. A weight held in front of the body induces more spinal stress than one carried on the back. And likewise, a given weight held in one hand is more likely to cause fatigue than if it were divided into equal amounts for each hand. In the accommodation block, stewards now use backpacks and trolleys to carry laundry about. Simple changes, but they've cut out a lot of back strain problems. In many areas, there are things like the big water fountain containers to fit into position. Here, it's a question of being aware of the weight and getting help if you need it. And perhaps your working environment can be changed. Something as simple as storing drums or sacks on waist-high benches so that they can be lifted off at that height rather than be picked up from floor level. Here's another good example of how rethinking a job has helped to avoid manual handling injuries. The air cylinders in lifeboats have to be removed every few years for recertification. Previously, this was a heavy, awkward job with a high potential for injury. But now there's a specially designed lifting frame with a chain block to lift the cylinder out. And then it's supported in the frame and can be wheeled easily to a landing area. The manual handling is now minimal, and there's also a much reduced risk of hand and finger injuries. Whatever the task, you should carry out a risk assessment on the job before you start, and discuss things with your workmates and your supervisor. There are manual handling risk assessment cards to help you. We've put a great deal of effort into making manual handling as safe as possible. But a lot depends on you. Take the time to get and use the mechanical aids if they're there. Don't overestimate your strength. And take into account things like weather conditions and fatigue. If you're cold and wet and tired towards the end of your shift, you're going to be more vulnerable than you were at the beginning. And you can even get hurt before you leave the beach. People have been known to injure themselves putting on and taking off their helicopter gear. It's awkward, twisting and bending to get into the survival suits, life jackets and so on. We've done some redesigning of the suits to make it easier, but be careful and don't be afraid to ask for help, or to offer to help someone else if you see that they're struggling. Well, that's it for us. We're off to enjoy a break. And it's just as important that Sid looks after me during that period also, because he's forever doing manual handling tasks around the home, and they're just as important as his work offshore.
Well, that's it. We're back together again. And that's how it should be, helping each other. So remember, follow the rules, be safe, and enjoy your life.